get started. Greetings, good afternoon, good evening. I'm not sure what time zone you're in. Welcome to the inaugural first of hopefully a series on a webinars for a focus on the Perfusion Without Borders. I want to thank AmSECT and our executive board for giving us this platform to be able to speak about something that we're all passionate about. And I'm very excited for our first webinar to focus on the Novick Cardiac Alliance, an organization that I have lots of love for. And today they're going to share with us the challenges of creating pediatric cardiac services in low and middle income countries. I would like to thank Scott Snider and Brian Forsberg for all the hard work in organizing this webinar, and I hope that this is informative for all of you. Please ask your questions via the chat. We'll try to get to all your questions. AmSECT has graciously submitted for Category 1 CEUs, and we were awarded 1.1 Cat 1 CEUs from the board. So you'll be getting a survey shortly after the end of the webinar. So please fill that out so you can get your Cat 1 CEUs. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
Thanks, Deb. This webinar is being co-sponsored by AmSECT's Perfusion Without Borders Committee, by the Novick Cardiac Alliance, and by the Texas Heart Institute. I am the chair for the Perfusion Without Borders committee of AmSECT, so I'm going to just give a quick rundown on what that's all about. The Perfusion Without Borders committee started back in 2002. Robin Sutton, she's a great person, chaired that committee. It was her idea to get it going. And the whole idea was that we'd have something like a Doctors Without Borders, but we'd be doing it with perfusionists. And back then, 2000, there was not a lot of this going on. It was around, but it was a lot harder to find. And I remember I was kind of looking for this sort of thing myself. So we thought that this would be helpful for the perfusion community if we could promote the virtues of cardiac missions, all that you could get from this, and to be able to try to put out resources for people that are interested in serving on a cardiac surgical mission. One of the things that you might know us about us most is the student scholarship, and that was started several years ago. We have been fortunate to send 11 students now on missions of their choice, and what they do is they go out there, they select a place that they'd like to go to, they make a connection with the people that run the charity. They are tentatively accepted to go on the mission, and then we pick one student that is awarded that scholarship up to $3,000 to pay for travel expenses. They go on out, they have the experience, and then when they come back, we have them come out to the international conference and present to everybody on the whole experience. I will say that from the very beginning, there are a lot of very moral, very ethical reasons to go out and to do missions, and I wouldn't even start on where to go with that. But that's never been what we've really promoted with the committee. The angle that we've really tried to take with this is that it's also a very educational opportunity. Missions is one of the most challenging things that you're ever going to do. And particularly for a student, it just opens up your awareness of how things are done around the world, of how really blessed we are to have the technology that we do every day that we take for granted, but also that you can function without it. And you learn a lot of lessons about being prepared for when you lose all of those tools that you rely on. So I'm going to hand this over to Brian for a couple more comments about the committee. Brian's on the committee also. We have a couple of people on our committee that have experience with missions. Deb was my former instructor at Texas Heart Institute, so we're all one big family here. But Brian, if you would go ahead with that and make some introductions to NCA.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. And welcome to everyone watching us around the world. We're happy to have you here. And next hour, we're going to go through some things and hear some things that are super exciting. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce my friend, Dr. William Novick. He is the medical director, CEO, and senior pediatric and congenital cardiac surgeon for the William Novick Global Cardiac Alliance. I've traveled with them all over the world. We've had many great adventures and have operated on thousands of children. His colleague, another surgeon, my good friend, Dr. Marcelo Cardarelli. He's the pediatric and congenital cardiac surgeon and also the research coordinator for the Novick Cardiac Alliance. And both of them will be sharing some insight into NCA, the story of our foundation, and then basically going to talk about some perfusion issues that we've had or come across amongst all of our travels. Then we'll have a short movie and we'll move on from there. So please, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand this over to Dr. Bill Novick.
Thank you, Brian. Let me pull up my talk, and can everybody see this? I hope so. So let me start out by saying that I'm really honored to have AmSECT and Texas Heart actually allow us to be the first to discuss the issues of traveling around the world and providing pediatric heart surgery and perfusion services in low and middle income countries. For those of you who don't know, I've been doing this since 1993. In 2001, I was fortunate enough to receive a full endowed chair in international child health care, which allowed me to participate on this absolutely full time. And so I basically have been doing this for a number of years and have seen most everything. Hopefully I'll still have a few surprises down the road. Today we're going to talk about the history and travails of the two foundations that I had founded. First was the International Children's Heart Foundation from 1993 to 2014. And then I founded the William Novick Global Cardiac Alliance in 2014. And that is what we function under now. So without further ado, this is the reason that we travel around the world, folks. Children with heart disease in these countries have little chance for adequate care. When you get down to somebody this size, I can tell you that the coverage of neonates in low and middle income countries is absolutely horrible. Most of these children die in the first 30 to 90 days of life, unless they're fortunate enough to have a visiting pediatric cardiac team show up in their country sometime around their birth. So, excuse me, these are two of our favorite nurses. This is Farzana Shah, and this is our dear Roz on the right of your screen. Roz has worked with us for years. They're both excellent pediatric cardiac ICU nurses. Roz is now a nurse practitioner in Philly, and Roz has returned to California so that she can actually work with children in the long-term problems that they have with their congenital heart disease. But they're both fabulous ladies and make the boat float, if you'll allow me that. So let me talk a little bit about where we've been and what we've done to give you a conceptual look into the inner workings of these two foundations. We began our work in Croatia in 1993, and I know that there's at least one Croatian that's listening, and she might remind the two dear Croatian perfusionists of ours that I note that they're not attending and will not be happy with them, but I'm sure she'll communicate that. Croatia was our first project, and it was a long-term project. We were there for 11 years and operated on over 600 children. Ukraine was next, and we continue in Ukraine. We've actually had 3 programs in Ukraine, and we're looking at adding a 4th here in the very near future. You'll notice that some of these programs, you'll see that there were a one-off trip. a one-off or a two-off, or maybe as many as three. Those are programs where when we visited, we were not happy with a number of issues, whether it was infrastructure, human resources, administrative philosophy towards this, or even in some cases, national government philosophy with regards to children with congenital heart disease. We don't like to spend our time on programs like that because we're trying to build sustainable pediatric cardiac programs around the world. So if the locals that have invited you turn out to only want you to just operate on their kids, I mean, that's a good thing to do, but it's not our model. And so we try not to stay with programs like this. This is a typical picture of a neighborhood outside Guayaquil, Ecuador. This is where our patients come from, folks. And situations like this are repeated all around the world in multiple countries where we work. This is nothing new for us. When we're talking about low and middle income, this is what we're talking about. Now, I don't know how closely you follow the previous page, but here are another 9 or 10 countries that we've traveled to over the years. China is a program that we ran for many, many years, 12 to be exact. We worked in multiple cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Nanjing, and we're very proud of the accomplishments of the programs that we helped there. They all have increased substantially in capacity, capability, and decreased mortality. So when you're talking about sustainable programs that we have impacted, China is really a very good example. Another good example is Colombia. I don't have the dates in there, I'm sorry. But we made 11 trips to Colombia in a 3-year time period and operated on 346 children. It was a very unique situation where we assisted one hospital almost entirely for that time. That was Clínica Chayo. And upon completion of that program, the pediatric cardiac team actually split in half. And one of the surgeons went over to cardio-infantil. So our work there actually assisted 2 programs, which we're very thankful for. As you can see, Pakistan, Dominican Republic, and India were all long-term projects that resulted in a substantial number of children being operated on, a fairly numerous set of trips. And I can tell you that with the exception of the Dominican Republic, unfortunately, the Pakistan program has spawned 3 other programs in the country. And the India program continues as one of the few neonatal centers in all of India. So, you know, we go to a lot of different places, and sometimes you have the unique opportunity to enjoy the vistas and to, you know, meet normal people and get out among the people in the countryside. So this is an example of one of the trips that we made outside of town. And here you can see the Lebanese national flag flying over what? Yes, that's a cedar tree, folks. That's the tree that Lebanon is famous for. So there are some bennies actually to making these trips sometimes. You actually do get to see some interesting scenery, meet some interesting people, and for sure eat some interesting food. So we'll continue on where we've been. Morocco, Honduras is a very big program of ours. Russia continues to be a program of ours. Iraq, as you can see, was and continues to be an enormous program. The last trip we made into Iraq was exactly at the pre-COVID time, and that's why you do not see a 2021 designation there. We will be going back, and actually we'll be back in Iraq in September of this year, October of this year, and probably November of this year. So there'll be a resumption of the program there. That's a program that we're very happy with as well. Our Ecuador program, I think is a very interesting program. Marcelo may talk about it a little bit, but the Ecuador program, as you can see here, we made multiple trips in over an extended period of time. And the Bustamante, Casa Bustamante Children's Hospital, where we really focused the majority of our efforts, at the time we arrived, had no pediatric cardiac surgery. It is now a self-functioning, sustainable unit. Of course, that depends on the vagaries of the Ministry of Health actually funding them with enough money to buy the oxygenators, tubing packs, and other essentials for providing pediatric cardiac surgery safely. But nonetheless, it's a program that we're very proud of. And we're going to be striking out to our second city later this year. Marcelo is going to make a trip to Cuenca. This is a site that we identified. It's the third largest city in the country, and they really need some help with their pediatric cardiac results. Now, sometimes we go to places where you see nice pine trees growing, and sometimes we go to dust bowls. Anybody care to venture a guess where this would be? Well, for any of you that have been there, you know there's a picture outside the guest house in Nasiriyah, Iraq. And it gives you an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about low and middle income countries, folks. I mean, look at those houses. That's a neighborhood in the distance that you see there, okay? And a lot of those places have one light inside them and a dirt floor, and the cooking is done outside over a fire, yes, made of wood, okay? So, you know, imagine if you have a child that's born in an area of Iraq like this, where you really, if you make $100 in a year, not a month, in a year, imagine your child having heart disease and being told, we don't have anybody in the country that can fix it. Why don't you sign up on the list, and maybe the Ministry of Health will get your child outside as you slowly watch your child die because the ministry doesn't get to them in time. So here's the last part. Libya is another very large program of ours. As a matter of fact, I just got back from Libya on July the 3rd. We did 47 kids on that trip, and they ranged from, yes, ASDs, but we also did 2 Rastellis on that trip, multiple AV canals. We staged a child who was 40 days old, not old by our standards for doing arterial switch, but the findings on echo bothered me a little bit on that child. He had a banana-shaped left ventricle already, and his LV posterior wall thickness was only about 3.5 millimeters. So we decided to do an atrial septectomy, band and a shunt on that baby. And he's unfortunately still sitting in the neonatal intensive care unit, not intubated or anything. They're just trying to work out his feedings. Another program that Marcelo and I are both extremely proud of is the Macedonia program. Now, let me try and explain this to you. This is another absolute zero program. There had been no cardiac surgery performed in Macedonia prior to our arrival in 2013. Every child went out, every adult went out. There was no surgery for cardiac problems in the country. So we started at the Clinical Hospital Center in Skopje, in the surgical clinic, and we worked there with the local team for, as you can see here, a number of years, 4 years actually for us, 19 trips, 204 children. And now the pediatric cardiac service is a self-functioning independent unit in, unfortunately, a private hospital there in Skopje, but the Ministry of Health does cover pediatric surgery. Yes, folks, we've been to Iran, and the Iranian program was actually very interesting, and that program continued until President Donald Trump made the announcement that he was pulling out of the nuclear accords. So sometimes politics here at home impacts our ability to serve a country. And as soon as that happened, the Iranians informed us that it was probably not good to continue the program because there were people marching in the streets, burning the American flag and calling death to America, and they didn't think it was a good time for us to come. Needless to say, things have not changed since. And our latest addition here is Lebanon. This is a program that is, again, an absolute de novo program. The cardiac surgeon that we're trying to train to be a pediatric cardiac surgeon spent years in one of our Ukraine programs. He actually went to medical school in Ukraine. And during our time in our program in Kharkiv in Ukraine, he came to me towards the end of his training and said, listen, would it be possible for you to come and assist me in developing a cardiac program in the southern part of Lebanon in a public system, because there are no public hospitals where children are currently operated on. And, you know, as my nom de guerre of Dr. No, I could not say no. And so we have established this program in Lebanon. We'll be making a fourth trip in sometime in the fall of this year. And we're very excited about that program. So to date, we've operated in 35 countries. We've operated on 9,617 children, plus or minus 2, and made 527 trips around the world. So it's been a robust program for a number of years, and it continues to this day, even though we had a major disruption of our program services during COVID, like everybody did. We went from an average of 24 trips a year down to exactly 5 trips during COVID. We've already made that number up in the first half of this year. COVID continues to impact our ability to get certain places, but the second half of the year looks very promising for an uptick in the number of places that we travel to. Now, remember why we're there. We're there for these children, and these are 2 of our volunteer nurses. They're both from the United States. We have a number of volunteers that come from Canada, the US, and from a number of the countries in the EU, as well as Australia. So our personnel, at least our volunteer personnel, come from all over the world. What does it take to do this? Well, you see what the pictures are there. You know, these trips and surgeries and happy kids and parents, none of this would actually happen if we didn't have our perfusionists with us. On the right side of your screen, you will see a photo taken in Kharkiv, Ukraine, where Lazo Aramia, our lead perfusionist and full-time perfusionist, quite frankly, is working with these 2 colleagues, Kharkiv, Ukraine colleagues, on this particular case. And on the left, then, you're going to see a shot from Tobruk, Libya. We've had to work in 3 different cities in Libya, secondary to civil wars, political infighting, and maliciousness, let us say. You know, we couldn't do this without all you folks. It just would not be possible. And so it takes a team to be able to operate on these children all over the world, just like it takes a team to be able to operate on them in the place that you're from. So, having said all of that, we have some extra added things that make these trips so interesting. The problems that we encounter and the issues that they create can sometimes be disaster. And Dr. Marcelo and I are going to give you some examples of some of the disasters or misadventures or difficulties that we have faced in our over 500 trips abroad today. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this extremely dry and dull presentation, but I thought it was important for you to see the kind of numbers and places that we've been over the years and realize that this really is a huge global problem. So thanks, everybody. Marcelo?
Thank you, Bill. All right, let me see if I can share the screen. Let me know if can everybody see?
Yes, Marcelo.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's wonderful to be able to talk to so many of you all over the world and share some of the scary days that we have when we travel. My talk is basically 6 different scenarios that we bump into it frequently, and you need to be prepared if you volunteer for those situations. So number 1 is the too many cook syndrome. I'm not going to make during the talk names of countries, people, or anything. I will leave it to your imagination, but the cases are real and every situation happened to me and many to Bill, I'm sure. So imagine we have 3 perfusionists. 1 is our perfusionist and 2 local, very experienced perfusionists. The case is a neonate with hypoplastic left heart syndrome. It's one of the first neonates. I'm first assisting the local surgeon. Everything is going well. The patient's temperature is 28 degrees. We're cooling down in preparation for deep hypothermia, circulatory arrest. The heart rate is almost nothing due to the temperature. And the hematocrit is 28, 29. And suddenly, we hear a big bang, and everybody gets splashed with blood. Lo and behold, what happened, this is next day that we find out after reviewing everything, this wasn't the exact oxygenator, it was a local oxygenator. But the too many cook syndrome means that all three guys, all very experienced, all very knowledgeable, trying to help each other. None of them was paying attention to the whole picture, and the vent for the gases to vent was left with a cap on. So eventually the pressure of the gas built up and the whole thing exploded literally behind our backs. So as you can imagine, I always, when I travel, because we see so many people from so many different countries, emphasize the difference between being responsible and being accountable. In every language, you can translate responsible. Accountable is not a word that you can translate on every single language. And it means that there is an expectation and there's a consequence. That was not the case. We had three very responsible people. Nobody was accountable. And what they were doing was having what is called as cognitive tunnel vision. Everybody was so busy in the little task that nobody was in charge of situational awareness, knowing what's going on. So from that point on, we made the decision that in every case, even if we have 2 or 3 perfusionists, only one person will be in charge of setting up, and the other 2 will be watching and assisting, but the responsibility will fall into just one perfusionist. The case actually, somehow we managed to continue the surgery. We had to give a patient blood. We couldn't rewarm, so we did CPR, gave blood to increase the hematocrit, ventilated the patient until the new circuit was set up, decannulated, trash everything, cannulated again with the new circuit, and continue cooling and doing the surgery. Eventually, we can't say that the patient eventually died because of this, but very likely. Situation number 2, cardioplegia. When you travel, cardioplegia is like gold. And here in America, at least, del nido is something that we use like something we need in every single surgery, even if it's an ASD. Except we would like to use it there, but except that our friend plasma light is a very difficult product to obtain in any country other than here in the States, of the countries that we travel to. So when you travel, if you travel, forget about del nido with plasma light. These are the only 2 options you're going to get to prepare your own cardioplegia. Cardioplegia does not come from a pharmacy. You have to make it for every single case. Between these 2, I would advise that you use normal saline. And the reason is here you have the normal saline column, the lactate, and the plasma light in the last one. The most important reason why plasma light is so good for cardioplegia is it has no calcium. It has magnesium beside the magnesium that you give extra. The pH is very normal to physiologic, very close to physiologic, and the osmolarity is normal. And as you can see, you can get in trouble with the components of the lactate. So normal saline is a solution to use. You still have to use the recipe and add everything else plus the patient's blood. but don't go expecting that the cardioplegia will come out of a pharmacy and from the refrigerator. Situation number 3, this is a very scary situation. So new country, 3rd trip, my first trip to that country. On the first week, I did a tetralogy of Fallot, 1 or 2 years of age, and the next day a VSD. I had never seen patients bleed so much like those 2. It was so much so that we had to use factor 7, which I had never used in the so many years of practice that I have, and have never used again in any of my patients. So we started investigating how is that possible. And it just happens that we get used to the drugs having what the drugs say they have, the exact dilution, fractioning, or whatever you want to call it, and that applies for heparin and for protamine. Well, in that particular country, we were using products that came from other countries. Not want to make any names, but the quality control was not ideal. And the solution for the next trip was that a HepCom machine was bought, and we never had again any issues, even if we used those combinations of protamine from one country, heparin from another country, and especially when they're not from high-income countries where the quality is controlled. And as you already know, there's a lack of correlation between ACT and HepCon concentration, and just giving extra protamine, which we all do, is not the solution, especially when there's so much bleeding, because at some point the protamine also becomes an anticoagulant. So when available, use the drugs from USA, the European Union, Canada, UK, Australia. But if you have to use the other drugs from the other countries, it's okay. They do have the product that they say it has. It's just that the concentration may not be reflected as is written on the label, and you have to have extra eyes to be aware of that. In relationship to the previous one, the bleeding, when you go to many of those countries, the packed blood cells are available, but the cryo, the FFP, and the platelets sometimes are not. The one advantage is in many of them, you still can get whole blood. The practice that was stopped here in America a long time ago when I was a resident, but it's a very effective way of stopping bleeding. The lack of products can be so bad. The case I remember was an arterial switch in a particular country, and of course the switch began to bleed for 6 hours after. We used the extra protamine, we used blood, and then I asked for platelets. And the response came from the lab, there's no platelets. Well, call the Red Cross. No, there's no platelets at the Red Cross. Well, call the Central Red Cross. Maybe they can find it somewhere. And the response was, there's no platelets in the country today. So that's a very, very scary situation. So lung perfusions that will be giving you as a result a patient that bleeds are not something that we look forward to. So we have to be very careful with the use of all these products. It's so bad that the reason for most of our post-op take-backs is bleeding. And those are my numbers here in the United States, 4.1% reoperation rate. And normally it's due to not to bleeding, but something is wrong with the repair. But in our trips, the take back is about 14% because of bleeding. So it's something to be very much aware. Number 5, is about alarms. These are the 4 top complaints that perfusionists have about alarm systems. All the alarms sound the same and can't distinguish whether there is an alarm for the low level, high pressure in the line, or air in the arterial line. The low level alarm does not stop the pump, some of the systems. Not every monitor parameter has an alarm. That's the other complaint. There's no alarm for PCO2 or hematocrit. And the last one, the operating room is too loud and I can't hear the alarms because the alarms are not loud enough. Well, when you travel with us, we can promise this. The operating room will be too loud, but the reason you can't hear the alarms will not be the noise. It will be because there is no alarms for pressure sometimes, for air in the arterial line many times, and rarely, but not unheard of, there's no blood level alarm. So if you have somebody that you're doing the perfusion with, you're teaching, helping a local perfusionist, somebody, one of the 2 people have to work as the alarm and pay extreme attention. Finally, another scary scenario. All the cases for the day are completed, the pump is clean, the heater cooler is clean and filled with sterile water that came from the pharmacy. Next morning, this is a true case. Next morning, the new circuit is set up, oxygenator, is primed with the blood and circulated. And then all of a sudden, a reddish color is detected in the tubing going from the oxygenator to the heater cooler. Because of this and because of other incidents with Brian and Bill, we published this 2 years ago about the deleterious effects of some chemical compounds on the polyurethane membrane of the membrane oxygenator. It turns out that the liquid, the sterile water that was in the heater cooler in that particular occasion was not such water, it was bicarb, pure bicarb. This is the result of our study in a lab with methylene blue leaking after 13 days of cold storage for an ECMO unit. Our papers were related to how methylene blue can affect membranes. And the same applies to lots of other chemical compounds. We are just not aware, we don't pay attention. But the liquids that are used to clean up the heater cooler, you have to be aware, you have to know what they are, and everything has to be removed with water before using the machine. So those are 6 of the examples of the scary things that happen on trips. And I hope that it takes away your sleep tonight thinking about it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marcelo. Now we're going to start a video that was recorded with Marcelo's trip to Lebanon. So we can queue up the video and we can all watch.
Please turn up your volume because the video may be a little low without that. Thank you.
Don't look working with him is an honor to be honest. He got so much.
Can everyone hear it? I hear this no sound.
No sound.
Okay.
See. While we're trying to get the video going, we do have a question from the audience. We had a question about when you're on trips, Dr. Novick, do you bring the family members to donate the blood the morning of the surgery or the day before when blood components are not readily available?
So we do a couple of things on these trips, and depending on where we are, but mostly the family members donate the day before surgery. However, if we're dealing with a redo or a neonate, we not only have family members donate the day before surgery, but we actually, when we go on bypass with those patients, sometimes during rewarming, just depends, we'll ask for a fresh whole blood donor from that group so that we have nice warm blood at the end of the case to transfuse into the child. And obviously you get the full impact of the platelets there as well. So this is what we commonly do when we travel abroad. Now, sometimes older children, their parents actually donate 2 or 3 days in advance. We won't accept anything that's more than 4 days old. Never.
All right, thank you, Dr. Novick. I think, Brian, we're going to send it back to you. Thank you.
Still no sound.
Still no sound.
Well, if we can't get the sound to work, we'll definitely send the link to everyone so that you can actually watch the video. I definitely recommend that everyone watch it. You can go to the Novick Cardiac Alliance website. And Brian, if you want to share that, or Dr. Novick, and the video is there, and you can see it'll play. All you have to do is push play. So
Yeah, we apologize. We thought we had that all worked out, but apparently no. So with that, we're going to move on to the portion of Cardiac Alliance and perfusion volunteers, as well as all the other volunteers we take on our trips all around the country, all around the world. I'm sorry. So
I think it would be, you know, at least for.
I'm gonna, can I have my share screen back?
For people who play some sports or play.
you want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, if you'll give me my share screen back.
There you go.
I think I might have pulled this off.
About 1 million babies
Let's
every
see.
year born with congenital heart defect, and 200 to 250,000
Well, I thought I could.
dying of a congenital heart defect, a critical congenital heart defect in the first year of life. I'm Marcelo Cardarelli.
Can everybody hear that?
One of the surgeons, co-founder of the
Sort of.
Alliance.
With Dr. Marcelo, this is my first time working with him, assisting. No, working with him is an honor to me, to be honest. He got so much you can learn from him, so much experience.
My first official trip was to Kharkiv in Ukraine. Spent a fair amount of time in Iraq, spent time in Libya. I spent an extremely long time going to Macedonia. One of the success stories of the foundation, you know, the program now is completely independent and we don't go anymore, which is the objective. We treat everybody as they have no politics, no religion, no color, no nationality. We don't care. Everybody deserves to have their heart fixed, their diseases cured, and treated, period. So we are right now working in Lowery, which is in the heart of the valley, and we're about 13 kilometers.
No sound.
Bill, it's dying again.
And others just ran away.
Can you hear it now?
Syria.
Very hard.
Yes, you
Yes.
can't mute yourself. You have to stay unmuted.
You know, suddenly you were told you need to leave your country with what you can carry. It's a terrible, terrible condition. And your child is born with a heart defect, a deadly heart defect. The fact that we can develop a program in a governmental hospital here in Aldershire would be great in the sense that we provide a place for people to come have heart surgery that otherwise wouldn't be able to have. Our goal is always to help develop pediatric heart centers for cardiology and cardiac surgery that become self-sustainable.
Sorry, my fault.
So the most important part is the discussion of the cases on the first day when we get to a place. And we sit with the cardiologists and we discuss every single patient that we're going to operate. About 15 children with congenital heart disease, and we confirm the diagnosis, find out the new things that we didn't know, decided who needs to go to a catheterization to find out more information, who goes straight to surgery.
Here in CATLAB now, CATLAB is a catheterization laboratory, which allows us to do a diagnostic and interventional procedures. And this girl has a very severe congenital heart disease. If pulmonary vessels are still reactive, so we may put her on sildenafil for some time, cosentine, drugs which dilate pulmonary vessels, and then maybe operate.
You kind of detach yourself a little bit from the moment of the surgery, from all the consequences. You're not thinking if I do this wrong or if anything happens, the child, there's a child, the mother is outside, the father's outside. You're just focusing on doing the right thing. We have the help of Dr. Walid Sharon, the local surgeon. It's the first time he worked with me, and as days go by, you can see how he is beginning to get into the flow. And his Pure Heart Foundation, which are the ones who, they're the glue that brings everything together and provide all the local logistics for us to be able to do what we do.
Pure Heart Foundation was established to help saving kids born with congenital heart disease. And one of the main goals is to establish a team in Lebanon and definitely in governmental hospitals, because we don't have any governmental hospital in Lebanon to do pediatric cardiac surgery.
My name is Nidal Ali, and I'm the country director for Islamic Relief Worldwide Lebanon office. And I went and visited Dr. Walid in his hospital, and I was impressed with the kind of vision. And when he explained to me the project about training doctors and doing surgeries for kids, helping their hearts to keep pumping and pumping healthy, I was really attached to this project. This would move Rashaya Government Hospital, from one level to another level and be a benchmark to all other government hospitals to be on the same path, to improve services, to be center of excellence.
The way I like to put it is, imagine that you are part of a symphonic orchestra. You play one instrument and somebody else comes and plays another instrument. You haven't played together for 4 years, but you do what you need to do, they do, and the music that comes out is just beautiful. Oh, we're going to go philosophical? Yeah, we can go philosophical. Sometimes it's difficult to know what the right thing to do is, but once you know, how can you not do it? And this is kind of that, you know, once you have the gift of being able to fix some of these wrongs, how can you not do it?
Thanks, Bill, for getting that to work.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. And then, so real quickly, oh, go ahead. So real quickly, we'll just kind of go through this kind of quick. We, you know, as Scott said in the beginning, we have some scholarships through the Perfusion Without Borders with AmSECT. The deadline for students is September 1st. Cardiac Alliance, we've had a very long history of taking volunteer students on our trips. Actually, 8 of the last 11 students awarded the scholarship have traveled with us all over the world. Ukraine, South America. One kind of great trip was Christy Steffens traveled with her father. She was a perfusion student at University of Nebraska, won the scholarship, and she traveled with her father, who's a pediatric perfusionist, to Ecuador with us. So that was fantastic. And we would like to continue taking students on our trips. We are lucky enough to have so many opportunities in so many countries that allow us to bring students and train alongside of us. So we thank AmSECT and Perfusion Without Borders for facilitating that scholarship. Sorry. The next scholarship is a SpecialtyCare Medical Mission Fund. It's actually a $25,000 endowment that SpecialtyCare has given in the name of Al Stammers, who's the Gibbon Award winner in 2021. And this money allows practicing perfusionists, so whether you're pediatric or adult, to travel, you know, with airfare and lodging to go on trips that people who wish to go but don't have the funds, or, you know, I think it should be a great opportunity for perfusionists to travel who might not want to travel alone on a mission trip their first time, to be able to travel with another perfusionist and cover their costs, so the charity doesn't have to bring 2 perfusionists, which is costly, and you know, the money can go towards something else. So thanks to SpecialtyCare and AmSECT, to Perfusion Without Borders to enable this scholarship for more people to travel. I know Bob Groom's on this webinar, and he's doing great things in Kenya. I think you would love someone to, you know, apply for the scholarship and travel and work over there with him for a couple weeks. So I applaud all those efforts, and we look forward to awarding the scholarship for the first time. As always, you know, this is a webinar. We're the first one with NCA. We're always looking for volunteers, whether it's nursing, perfusion, anesthesiologists, cardiologists. we take a whole team to most of these places. So we'd love for you to check out our website. There's tons of information on there. You can click the link to volunteer and get in touch with any of us on our team page, and we'd be happy to put you in the right direction. Also, donations. I know Deb wants to chime in real quick on this as well. You know, you can donate your time to volunteer. I know sometimes it's 2 weeks out of your busy schedule is a long time, but we'd love to have you along one of our trips. If not, we always accept financial donations for these countries to support their programs. And also we have lots of people that donate supplies. I actually just got an email from Mark Shepard, a pediatric perfusionist up in St. Louis. He has supplies that he's donating to us, and I've gotten supplies from all over the country that pour in. So we thank you for those efforts, and they do not go to waste. Deb, would you like to comment on anything before we take some questions real quick and wrap up?
There, I unmute. I just want to, you know, thank all of you for participating and having interest in this webinar and Perfusion Without Borders. I call it humanitarian healthcare. This is a healthcare crisis, a global humanitarian issue that I think we all need to continue to raise our own awareness and raise others' awareness. Participating will enrich your life personally and professionally in ways that you can't even imagine. You build wonderful friendships and lifelong experience that you can't replace it with anything. One thing that I have seen on the, you know, the trips that I've been privileged to take with Dr. Novick is how little perfusion education, formal education there is beyond Europe and the United States, and how much we really are needed. And we can share our knowledge, our expertise, our experience, and they're excellent clinicians. Just like us 50 years ago, we just needed some formal education. So continue to participate. If you can't go yourself, support a colleague that can travel, fundraise, donate time, donate money, help fundraise, and just spread the word. So I just thank you all again for participating and for the Cardiac Alliance for the work that you all do.
Thanks, Deb. And if there's any questions or quick question for Dr. Novick or Marcelo.
Well, if you don't mind, Brian, let me just say that I really appreciate the opportunity that AmSECT and Texas Heart have given us to be the lead up to this Perfusion Without Borders, what I hope will turn into a continued webinar. You know, one of the things that certainly can be helpful for those of you that are perfusionists out there is that if your hospitals have a change in surgeon and he wants to switch, you know, custom packs and cannulas, etc., don't throw them away. We'll be glad to take them off your hands. Thanks, everybody.
Just a reminder that you will get a link for the SurveyMonkey. Please fill that out if you want your CEUs, and just stay tuned for future webinars on Perfusion Without Borders.
Thank you to our panelists and Scott, our faculty, and AmSECT for the host, and Marcelo and Bill. Take care. We'll see you soon. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.